If you want to elevate the look and lighting performance of your 2010 to 2018 Ram 2500 or 3500, the Alpharex Nova Series 5th Gen 2500 G2 style headlights are going to be a great choice for you. These bring some clean factory-inspired good looks and a serious amount of output to the table. So they'll be a huge improvement over your factory halogens, and they have a cool aesthetic to go along with it. Just a quick note on fitment before we dive in too deeply here. These are designed to fit 2010 to 2018 Ram 2500s and 3500s that were equipped with the factory halogen non-projector headlights. Upgrading the lighting in your truck is always a good idea, and if you're gonna do it, you might as well up the ante quite a bit, right? And an upgrade, these Alpharexes certainly are. Not only do they look great, but they might also look a little familiar to you, and that is on purpose, because these are meant to evoke the styling of the latest generation heavy-duty Rams. So these are a great way for those of you who like the look of the newer truck to get a little bit of that flavor on your own without having to upgrade the entire truck, trade it in, take a hit on it. But beauty here is more than skin deep, because these things pack a serious amount of punch. This is a fully LED setup. So you've got these 4 Ice Cube 3D LED projectors that make up your main beams. The 3 on the outer edges here, they're gonna light up for your low beam, and the innermost one is gonna come on when you trigger your high beams. These are gonna put out a ton of light, and they throw a really clear wide beam pattern down the road with a nice sharp cutoff, as you would expect from projectors. Now on the top and bottom of those, you're gonna find yet more LEDs. Now these are multifunction LED strips, so they do a number of things, including acting as your daytime running lights. Now you can have those DRLs be either amber or white, depending on your taste, and you can switch it up later on down the line if you want. You don't have to make a choice and just stick with it. Now those multifunction LEDs are also going to function as your turn signals, and those are sequential. So while it doesn't really do anything functionally, it's just a little extra coolness factor. Those also have one other feature of their sleeve, in that they have an activation light, and that is a sequential light show that's going to happen when you lock or unlock the truck, or when you start it up for the first time. And it adds that OEM type of feel and look, makes these feel very integrated and like they were supposed to be there all along. Construction is all pretty first rate here as well. The outer housings are made from polypropylene, and they feature the Alpha Black inner housings with clear polycarbonate lenses over top. Again, pretty much the industry standard, as you might expect on any other OEM type of light. But those Alpha Black inner housings and the clear lenses mean that you get the blacked out stealthy look without having to sacrifice lighting output. Now those lenses had a few other things too. One is that they have an anti-fogging agent, and there is yet another coating on the outside, so that's going to help keep them clear in all kinds of weather conditions, and it's going to help prevent fading and yellowing, so these should look good for a long time. Inside, these feature the Osram Olsen Black Flat LED chips, which is going to give you that superior light output and longevity. And since these are, of course, all LEDs, they should have a very long lifespan, so you don't have to worry about changing out bulbs. Now on the back, you're going to find a couple of other things, including integrated vents and adjusters. Those adjusters mean that these are DOT, SAE, and FMV 108 SS approved, so they are also fully street legal. Now with all that good stuff, you might be expecting these to cost you a pretty penny. And well, that is definitely the case. This set is gonna run you about $1,700, which does put them toward the top end of the category. But just like you'd find with most other aftermarket parts, especially when it comes to lights, you get what you pay for here. And there's a ton of good stuff baked in here on top of a great look and excellent lighting output. So if you're willing to spend the cash, these are gonna be an excellent option for you. Now installation is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 2 hours to complete. Now these are going to require a little bit of wiring for those daytime running light functions, but for the most part, these are a plug and play operation, and even if you're not familiar with wiring, it's really not all that much. Really just power and ground, plug in a fuse tab, and then plug in a bunch of stuff in. Now you are gonna have to do a little bit of disassembly to get these in, of course, and access your original lights, but it's not too bad. Everything you need comes in the box, and if you're comfortable with this sort of thing, it's definitely a job you can accomplish at home. Plus, we're gonna walk you through the entire process step by step right now, so for that, let's head on out to the shop.
For this install, you will need an impact, an extension, a 10mm socket, and a clip removal tool. What's up folks, today we're going to be doing some headlights on our Ram, but before we get started we're going to send you to watch a quick video on how to remove your factory setup, and we'll see you when you get back.
So our first step is to remove all of the push clips that are holding in our upper radiator cover. So I've got a clip remover tool to pop these out. So now we can start from the edge and work our way across, popping out our clips. And then with all of our clips removed, that'll expose these 4 bolts that hold in the top of our grill. So we'll grab a 10mm socket to pop these out. And now with the 4 bolts removed off the top of our grill, we can pull straight back to remove it. Now with our grill removed, we can remove these 2 10mm bolts that hold in the inside of our headlight. So we'll grab a 10mm socket and get these out. So next we can come down into our fender liner. We have this little access door here that we're gonna pop open. Now inside towards the fender, there's gonna be a white clip that we're gonna have to push up on. It's gonna be really hard to see from this angle, but I'll show you from the front once we get our headlight out. So we'll just reach in there, push up on that tab, and that'll free our headlight. And now once we release our tab, we have one more silver 10mm bolt here that we need to remove. So I'll grab that 10mm socket to get that out. So now with all of our bolts removed and our tab released, we can pull back on the headlight to remove it. And then we'll just disconnect our electrical harnesses. So pull back on our red tab and then push in on our black to remove that. And then over here, pull out on the white, push in on the black to remove that. And now this is that white tab we were showing you. This is the open position where you can slide this little notch in there. And then when you pull it down, it locks that into place. So now once we have this headlight removed, we can do the same thing on the other side.
Alrighty guys, welcome back. Now that we have our factory setup off, it's time to prep our wiring for our new headlights. This has some adapter harnessing. So what we're gonna do first is connect this to our battery. Now to keep everything safe, this is a fuse circuit. So we're gonna pop the lid off of this first. Once you get that cover off, you want to remove this fuse until we're ready to test everything out, because that'll keep your circuit dead. So we'll set this up here. We're going to connect our positive and negative wires to our battery. So do our positive first. We'll grab our 10mm socket. We're going to loosen up this nut. We're going to slide our terminal on and tighten that back down. And we'll do the same thing for our negative terminal. Now that we have that in place, we'll need to come to our fuse box. So to open that up, you just have these 2 tabs. You pull that back. Now you should have a fuse puller in your fuse box. If you don't, you can use needle nose pliers. We're gonna grab this 10 amp fuse that is 1 space away from these 30 amps. We'll pop that out. You can put your fuse puller right back. It's always a good idea. And we're gonna grab our provided fuse tap that's already wired up into our harness. We're gonna add that other 10 amp fuse that we just pulled to our tap. Make sure that goes all the way in. Then we're gonna place this fuse tap right back where that fuse came out. We'll route our wiring, clears our fuse box back up. Now for better fitment, you could notch out your fuse box lid for a nice tight flush close. For demonstration purposes, we're not gonna do that, but feel free to do that at home. Now we can get the rest of our wiring routed to our headlight areas so we can plug everything in. You're gonna have 1 yellow wire. It's gonna go into your headlight area, so you can just fish that down through. It's a nice open space, so you'll see it come through. Then you're gonna have a shorter bullet connector going to go to your driver's side. Keep everything nice and tucked. And then the longer bullet connector is going to cross over to your passenger side. Now when you get your connector over to the passenger side, there's a little open space right behind your headlight area. You can feed your connector through, run that into your headlight area. Now as far as securing your harness up, you can pretty much do this however you want. You just want to keep it out of the way of any hot or moving parts, just to make sure you don't damage your harness, but you can feel free to make it your own. Tuck it however you'd like it, under your sheathing and your shrouds. So now we're ready to plug in our headlight. So we're going to connect our factory marker light connector. They're going to be in the same locations as your factory ones. So lock that in, make sure you lock your safety tab back down. Once that clicks into place, and your high and low beam connector, same way. And for the driver's side, we're going to connect that yellow wire. It's a single connector. Make sure that locks in. Then we've got a white wire with a bullet connector that's going to go to our red wire on our harness. Lock that in. And we can set our headlight in place. You want to make sure you're not pinching any wires. Make sure you line up your locators on the back side of your headlight. And you want to be very careful not to pinch any connectors or wiring on the back side of your headlight. Pop that into place. Once we have this in, we can reinstall our hardware. Now we can reinstall the two 10mm bolts up front. So our shorter one is going to go to our top mounting point. Again with our 10mm socket. Make sure this stays even. We can reinstall our lower one. That's going to be our longer silver one. You will need an extension for this one. Now once you have your front part bolted back in, you're going to have to come back to your fender liner and go back into that little trap door and lock your tab back in the back side of the headlight. You want to pull that down to lock it into place, and you can re-secure your trap door. Now once you have this side in and hooked up, you can do the same thing for the other side. Now once you have both headlights fully hooked up and installed, you want to come back over to your harness and reinstall that fuse. Pop that into place. Then it's always a good idea to check the functionality of your headlights before we reinstall our grille. So next we can reinstall our grille. So we'll get this lined up with our bottom and middle locators. As well as you want to make sure your little shrouds go over top of your brackets. Line everything back up. You want to give bottom and middle a push. Make sure they lock back into place. Now you'll notice with our grille we have a couple of broken tabs, but you want to reinstall all 4 of your 10mm bolts up top. So once again, we've got our 10mm socket. We'll get these back in. Now we can reinstall our upper shroud. So we'll line up all of our push pin locations and just push those right back into place, like so. That'll do it. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our Alpha-Rex Nova Series 5th Gen 2500 G2 style LED projector headlights and Alpha Black housings and clear lenses for your 10 to 18 Ram 2500 with factory halogen non-projector headlights. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.